From Chesapeake, Virginia, the Lighthouse 100.1 presents Sports Scene. Sports Scene features local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests and excellent interviews. Follow Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Now here is Greg Bicouvaris.
Sports Scene presented by Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com. Sports Scene Saturday on the radio at 10 a.m. on WPMH and TuneIn.com by typing WPMH in the search bar on Saturday at 10 a.m. Greg Bicouvaris along with Colleen. Tell your friends about Sports Scene. Twitter at Greg Bick, and you can see the rest of my Twitter handles on GJBTV.com in the contact section. Thank you to our military. Guest lineup presented by GJBTV.com. Phone line presented by at Greg Bick on YouTube. Please subscribe. It's GREGBIC on YouTube. GJBTV.com. Super Bowl champs. Who else? Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. NBA, college basketball, all heating up. Great interviews, excellent guests, business segments, highlights, commentary. What teased me off? Thank you for listening to Sports Scene. We love our regulars, tourists who listen online and on the radio.
A tradition of excellence for over 50 years is the Aberdeen Barn Steakhouse in Virginia Beach. Start your experience off with she crab soup, an assortment of appetizers such as the fried oyster, Rockefeller, crispy calamari, just to name a few. Aberdeen Barn has the finest premium steaks, prime rib, grilled tomahawk ribeye, seafood, chicken, pasta dishes, and live music in a most pleasing atmosphere. Open daily. Visit them at 5805 Northampton Boulevard in Virginia Beach. Call 464-1580 and log on to aberdeenbarn.net.
And welcome back to Sports Scene. Glad you're with us every Saturday from 10 to 11. Also on YouTube, TuneIn, and Twitter, social media, as well as AM and FM right here on WPMH in Hampton Roads. A pleasure to always talk to Jeff Jones, head basketball coach of Old Dominion, former UVA graduate. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing well, Greg. Thank you.
Very good, very good. I guess the big thing this year is trying to get to 20 games, and even with all the inconsistencies of COVID, you guys are itching and scratching to get there. And of course, you got a good win last night on the road.
Yeah, you're trying to play as many games as possible. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we've had several games canceled. We had a couple games early on that had to do with other people having COVID. We unfortunately had a pause for 2 weeks where we had to miss some games, but we're knock on wood, we're back healthy and back to full strength. We do look to hopefully at the end of the regular season, prior to our conference tournament, have an opportunity to make up at least two of the four games that we have had canceled. So, like everyone, we're just trying to make the best of it and stay as healthy as possible.
Do you like the protocol of doubling up, Coach, playing the same team pretty much back to back?
I don't know that I would go as far as liking it, but I think it's smart. I think it makes a lot of sense, both in terms of health safety precautions. But also it saves on some finances. It's one less set of plane flights and that kind of thing. So I think in this particular year it makes a lot of sense and was a good decision.
Yeah, not to mention probably helps a lot with scouting as well.
Well, it makes it easier for the assistant coaches with the scouts. They don't have to. They don't have to watch as many games when they're just watching one opponent.
Absolutely. Talking to Jeff Jones, head basketball coach at Old Dominion. And, Coach, normally this time of the year you're going through injuries anyway. With COVID, trying to get all the minutes in for all these players, guys coming off the bench, contributing, it really does take a total team effort with all the obstacles you've got going on.
It really does. And way before the season ever started, I made the observation that I thought it wasn't just going to be the best team. Obviously, that factors in, but the deepest team because of COVID and the potential, guys kind of dropping out because of that and missing games. But also, with the way Conference USA is scheduled as games, like we just talked about, playing back to back, a deeper team is going to have an advantage. So. I do think, as you said, it's a total team effort, and everybody's got to be able to contribute at any given time.
Right, you got players, from all dimensions, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors that do contribute, and you've always had some depth. This year you really got to take it to another level. It's not just the guys like you've always talked about that score in double figures, but it's the intangibles, getting that offensive and defensive rebound, hustling, going after the ball, when it comes down to it, because that's how you win overtime games and games down the stretch.
Well, in any season, not just this year with all the unusual circumstances, but I think one of the things that as players get older, hopefully they learn, but they're lacking in the understanding of how important the little things are and how those things add up to become big things. That's part of learning how to win. If players focuses on simply making shots or getting a rebound, there's so much more that behind the scenes goes into winning basketball games. That certainly fans and interested observers don't get, but the players themselves, I don't think they don't have an inherent understanding of what really wins basketball games, and particularly in an era of highlights and sound bites that we're in with the media. You see all these spectacular plays. And they're really, really amazing. But if you don't have the understanding that that's not what wins games, those things are great to watch, but those things are, they just don't happen that much. And if you're playing for the great play, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities to just chip away and do those little things that we talk about all the time that end up translating into victory.
And that's why you have a great coaching staff, and, you have the veteran players that kind of hope to teach the younger guys the ropes. So when you get down to February and March and you have to win tournament games on the road like you did a few years ago, hopefully the veteran leadership will help the younger guys. And by the time, the end of the season, everybody's evolved.
You're exactly right. And that team that you referenced is a great example, having guys like B.J. Stith and Ahmad Kaver. They were always talking to their teammates, but they knew what was needed, and that team did. We won a lot of close games. We learned how to grind. We learned how to win, even if maybe we weren't playing our very, very best. And you do want your veteran players to share the same set of values as the coaching staff does in that regard, and be on the same page, because they can be such great teachers, to those young guys. And I look back and I see how BJ and Ahmad, taught a group, and not all of them learn the same way. But a guy like Jason Wade, unfortunately, he's on the injured list again this year. But he learned during his freshman year, and prior to him getting injured a year ago, he was showing that he learned those lessons very, very well, and so that's always important to have that continuity of the program, have that great leadership, so that those lessons can be passed on.
Yeah, look at guys like Xavier Green, who's played for a long time. I mean, you've been with the program since the fall of 2013. You count on guys. Remember back when you played, people, the UVA alumni, the ACC fans knew as you, Gates, Lamp, Raker, and Ralph. You can't always rely on the same old. That's why it's important for these younger guys, to step up. They realize they've got to make a difference, especially in February.
Yeah, and again, it's a constant learning curve.
Sure.
In every opportunity is an opportunity to get better, to gain more experience. I look at our game, last night, and Mekhi Long is a sophomore forward that transferred to us from Rhode Island. Initially it looked like he was going to have to sit out because of the transfer rules, and then obviously the NCAA allowed everyone to have a free year, so to speak, this year. And Mekhi is a talented player, but he's not played at the collegiate level. He's not played a lot of minutes. So, whether it's the 20-something minutes he got in the loss to Marshall last Saturday, or the night before in the minutes that he got then, or last night in an overtime game. He played, I think it was 15, 16 minutes. And he did some things well, but he has things to learn. But having that opportunity to be out there will benefit him. And as you say, down the stretch, as you're jockeying for position in conference tournament play, it's every contribution, every little thing that your players do can make a difference.
How has it been, Coach, with limited fans? Of course, you pretty much expected that before the season started, so you kind of prepped your team that way. But how would you tell the fans listening here today on the radio and on TuneIn and all the different platforms about your team this year? How does it compare to some of your former American and Virginia teams?
Well, I think we've adjusted. I think everybody, has adjusted. But it's just weird.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we got on the floor, we didn't have any exhibitions or scrimmages this year. So we went to Maryland and we went up there to their arena, and it was just different. It was unlike anything that we had ever really experienced. But as it's gone on, I think we've adjusted. But I could tell you 100% of our players and coaches, and I'm sure probably all the teams throughout the country, if given our druthers, we'd much rather have the fans there. But it is what it is, and hopefully this is the only year we're going to have to deal with it. I think, quite honestly, from our perspective, that comeback that we had against Marshall last Friday night is maybe even more unique, because it's one thing if you can come back and you got that home crowd behind you, urging you on and pumping you up, but not having really that many people, 250, I guess it is, in the stands, and making that kind of comeback from 21 down, I think makes it even more, as I said, more unique.
Yeah, and the players had that in their back pocket. I mean, you beat Marshall by 1 point, then you come back again recently here and beat Charlotte on the road in overtime by 2. So they kind of, people are creatures of habit. They realize they can do it, and they did it again, recently against Charlotte.
Yeah, I think what the lesson there is, though, is that you don't rely on, you shouldn't have to have, that external motivation.
Sure.
And if you have it internally, if as we talked about, if we bring our own energy, you're still able to, to compete and play at a high level, and that certainly is our goal. It's helpful, obviously, when there's a crowd, even if you're on the road,
mm-hmm.
But that atmosphere, that energy, that electricity that's in the air, that can get teams, excited. But again, this year's not the case. In any year, it might not be the case, but you can't rely on that external motivation. The bottom line is we're responsible, for how we play. We're responsible for our own energy, and we've got to generate it one way or another.
And that comes to fruition when you go to Frisco for the tournament, and you guys have won it before, and it's not easy, but, winning on the road is never easy, and your guys know that. Talking to Jeff Jones, head basketball coach at Old Dominion, what players, Coach, have kind of stood out this year that have kind of surprised you, that have really, made the next step as the season's coming down to a stretch?
Well, I think, Joe Reese is growing up, and he's made big strides, but he still has a way to go. But I see him maturing and becoming a more consistent contributor. Kalua Zigba, who obviously had a very big game last night. He was 10 for 11 from the field. And he's got a lot of talent, but he's been inconsistent. But we're seeing. Last year I talked about how we see glimpses. This year it's not glimpses, but we're seeing longer periods of time, where he's at playing at a high level. We'd like to see that even more. But he's been, I don't know if it's a surprise, but he's taken a step forward as well. I think the surprise, because we had no idea with him coming in. I mean, he didn't join our program until late, gaining his NCAA eligibility because of the transfer rules. Austin Trice has been a big plus coming off the bench. He's a bull in a china shop. I mean, he's very athletic. He kind of is full steam ahead. But he's posted some numbers, and he's done some pretty good stuff for us. So I think that's the surprise. Between he and Kalu, that center position for us is really productive.
Mm-hmm. Talk about your offense, the defense. I mean, you see a lot of teams mixing it up a little bit. Some always do the zone. You're seeing Duke trying the zone more in the last few years. Talk about your team. What do you think the strengths have been as far as, because you've played a couple different multiple sets as far as offense and defense, but what is the main ticking point for the team?
Well, we've always been primarily a man-to-man team, and we still feel like that has to be our bread and butter. We're getting better, hopefully, defensively. Early on, we struggled with our defense, and there's probably a lot of different reasons why we weren't playing up to the standard that we hold ourselves to. Because of that, we probably played more zone than in past years. I think we'll clearly continue playing zone to complement our man-to-man, sprinkle it in there, be able to try to change the rhythm of the game. And who knows, down the stretch, we might try to throw some different wrinkles at people. We'll see. But offensively, our offense should to the observer, certainly the trained eye, should look different than it has in the past. We've tried to spread the floor. We're running some different concepts, trying to create more open court situations, trying to create more movement. We've had some success with it, but we still have a lot of improving, I think, to do at the offensive end. One of the things that's really been beneficial for us, you always want to have some sort of focus, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than trying to do 5, 6, 10 different things, but having a focus and then playing off of that. I think we've established our identity as a team that wants to go inside. Kalu and Austin, as I talked about earlier, have been productive, and I think that's been really good for us. And we can play off of that, and that gives our guys a kind of a collective focus, so that we're all kind of working towards the same goal.
Right, because you've had teams over the years that have been better outside in or inside out, but you still see when the games are on TV and the coaches' reactions when they don't get that offensive rebound or defensive rebound coach, it's tough to go down there, all the way down the court, shoot it one time and get back on defense. That's why it's so important to crash those boards.
Well, we've been pretty good to very good, just as a program on our offensive board. Part of it is emphasis. We just emphasize to our team, not just the big guys, but to be aggressive and to keep working. And we want to play a possession game of sorts that gains us additional possessions. Sometimes, even if you don't shoot well, if you can have 10 or 11 more possessions than the opponent, then that can bode well. So, we've had guys, Brandon Stiff and Denzel Taylor, several years ago. Joe Reese has a knack, Kalu has a knack, Austin Trice has a knack. Aaron Carver last year was very good on the offensive board. So when you look at percentage of offensive rebounds, we've consistently been at the top of college basketball. The drawback there is if you're getting a lot of offensive rebounds, that means you're missing a good amount of shots.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So there is a downside to that, but we do feel like that's something that can be a weapon for us to get us additional, not just get us points, but get us additional possessions.
Final two questions for Coach Jones as they get down the stretch here against UAB, Middle Tennessee, and so forth. You talk about where the team goes from there. You have to be happy overall with how the team's evolved, like we said earlier. But, it comes down to these last few games, as you get ready for Frisco. Because Frisco, talk about a coach, is just a totally different animal probably than some of the places you played at before.
Yeah. That's a weird thing about Conference USA, the decision that the league office made several years ago to play our tournament in Frisco. And it's not the fact that it's in Frisco, but it's the fact that it's in the an indoor football stadium. And you've got two courts, and they're separated and all that kind of stuff. And there could be two games playing at the same time. The issue with noise and all that isn't really that big a deal, but it's not cozy. The shooting background is awful. I'm not a fan of it at all, and I'm the one that every spring when we have coaches meetings that proposes let's put it somewhere else. But for now it's going to be there. I think for the third or fourth straight year, and number one, the goal is to get there. Not all 14 teams play in the tournament. I think it's 12 this year playing the tournament, and then the seeding. You want to get the best possible seed that you can, and then who knows what might happen. You want to just kind of go out there and give it your best shot, and then we were the number one seed going in a couple years ago, but we had to win three really hard-fought games. And tournament basketball is a crazy animal, and you never know. But hopefully, we're learning, how to win close games. We're learning how to play, back to back, and we'll be ready for that tournament-style basketball when it rolls around here in a few weeks.
And, of course, the NCAA tournament will be in one state, in Indiana. I got to ask you on a lighter note, Coach, final question, because I have an aunt that actually lives in Greece. What is the status of Alphys Palavios, and how's he doing as a person, as a student, as an athlete?
Alphys is great. He didn't play last night with AJ and Malik coming back. They kind of took away his minutes. But Alphys is a wonderful young man, outstanding student, great citizen, great teammate. He's kind of the ideal student athlete. He works so hard in practice. Gives 100% to the team. When he gets an opportunity, like he did against Marshall Friday and Saturday night, he goes out there, and again, he's all about the team. He played extremely well in that Friday night game against Marshall. We don't win without Alphys' contribution. So, I don't have anything negative. I can't say enough positive about Alphys. He's the kind of guy that you want in your program for reasons beyond basketball, not just including basketball. And all of his followers back in Greece, should be very, very happy and proud of him.
Absolutely. Coach, thanks for your time, your talent, and your treasure. All the best, and to your great assistants that have also persevered this very difficult year of academics, athletics, and activities, and all the best down the stretch run, Coach.
Thank you, Greg. Be safe out there.
You too. Jeff Jones, head basketball coach at Old Dominion, doing a great job and evolving every single year. Sports Scene will continue after these messages.
It's now time for Greg's Highlights, presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
Highlights, gjbtv.com, hrsmhof.com, Hampton Roads onlinemall.com, browse, shop, visit, gjbtv.com for archive shows. Click the YouTube link on the homepage for archived audio and video. Also, may the memory of Larry King be eternal. Had a chance to interview him about 10 years ago when I worked at the game. Question of the day to Colleen, our esteemed station manager and producer. If you weren't doing this career, what else would you be doing?
Well, at one time I was going to be a lawyer or a teacher, actually. So if I wasn't in broadcasting, that's probably what I'd be doing.
I'd be doing some type of broadcasting, marketing, exactly what I am doing. I don't think I could do anything else at this point. All right, Sports Scene will continue after these messages.
Sports Scene, Hampton Roads premier interview show with Greg Bicouvaris, each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11.
And you look at that, 4-4 at home, which is just average, 4-3-1 on the road. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. They were not the same team after they beat the Packers, yet the Packers were a totally different team.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick, and listen weekly as Greg interviews distinguished guests with excellent commentary and insight. Sports Scene, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on the Lighthouse 100.1 FM. Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Email bicogb@hotmail.com. Now back to Greg Bicouvaris in the Hampton Roads onlinemall.com studios.
Welcome back to Sports Scene. Always a pleasure to talk to the good people at the Virginia Living Museum in Newport News about all the good things in Mother Nature land. And let's talk to Rebecca Kleinhample, the Executive Director. How are you, Rebecca?
Hi, Greg. I'm great. Thanks for having me this morning.
Very good. I guess it's been a lot of adapting since March of 2020, and you guys really have since June of 2020, and things are starting to get back to somewhat to normal.
Adapting, absolutely. Evolving. We could throw a lot of scientific names at that, but this team has taken on the responsibility of being open to educate our community, and we love it.
I think it's so important, too, to open up people's eyes when they go there, whether they do a tour inside or walk around the outside on the great grounds you have. There really is something for everyone at every single age.
Thank you. Absolutely agree. Between the animal experiences with just the visuals for younger folks and the conversations that are had here with our great volunteer corps, animal experiences with, staff members and enrichment opportunities, the outdoors and the boardwalk trail are absolutely for everybody.
Right. Talk about what you've got coming up. And you guys practice excellent social distancing. And, of course, you've got the Ice Age through April.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a museum is accredited by two agencies, basically for our live animal collections, as well as our fossil collections, more like a traditional natural history museum. So what we've done is bring out a number of those natural history collections and related them to animals that are currently living, some here at the museum, and we talk about extinction. So this is exploring the Ice Age because we have a number of species exhibited that were in those realms, and then relate them to the species that we're living with here today. And that allows our audience to consider extinction and what we can learn from extinction and how we might be better stewards to prevent extinctions, perhaps.
Right, and of course the Ice Age. We're in the wintertime. Even in March, even in March and April, it's still somewhat cold as well. But your sponsors play a big part in that as well.
We're so fortunate to have WM Jordan and Town Bank support us. They are incredible community partners that have been really supporting this museum for absolutely decades.
Well, let's talk about it as far as what people can do, as far as capacity, what they can expect for the first time they walk in the doors.
Right. We are, of course, social distancing, limited attendance, 6 feet mandated space between folks, one-way pathway through the museum, masks mandatory on property. And we also made the boardwalk outside one way, just so there were not any challenges with folks getting too close to each other. The best part is that the one way works well through the museum. fully ADA compliant. And then the grounds outside, I mean, it's a 3/4 mile boardwalk trail outdoors, just enjoying native wildlife, animals, native botanicals, green living, you name it.
Yeah, of course, for more, go to the VLM.org. That's THEVLM.org. And, of course, this has been different for students, too, because most students throughout Hampton Roads, not just Newport News, have been going virtual. So I remember my younger sister used to be a teacher in Williamsburg, and she would bring a bus group of kids there. How has that changed this year?
Wow, we so miss bus loads of students here at the museum. It's the core of our business to educate. So, yeah, that is a huge transition. Fortunately, we had a staff ready to go live on social media, live streaming with animal experiences, live feedings, and that has just been hugely, hugely popular. So yeah, virtual learning, it's not the same, but it is really engaging when you can talk to the curator or the animal welfare expert here at the museum who knows that animals' habits and their diets, and you can really enjoy learning in the different way that we have to now today.
Talking to Rebecca Kleinhample here on Sports Scene at Greg Bick on Twitter. Go ahead and plug into your social media you want to, Rebecca.
Oh, social media, Facebook, absolutely. We're on Twitter, but I think the best is Instagram for great photos.
Yes, and of course people coming in. It will be spring, believe it or not, with the weather outside in a few months, and you'll be having some spring break classes and plant sales. I absolutely love the plants.
Oh, thank you. That was so popular. We went online for the first time ever with our plant sale and did a drive-through drop, into your trunk, and you can choose online. And then when we were able, we also opened the grounds for on-site. So we'll do a combination this spring as well. So you can plant native and have those hardy plants that require less water and less care and are better for the entire Virginia ecosystem.
And you'll have the Jurassic Giants coming up this summer.
This summer, Giants. What's better, right?
Yeah.
Dinosaurs is a never-ending content that is so popular. So we'll have dinosaurs inside one way and then outside in the great outdoors, open and available.
It's almost like the best of both worlds, Rebecca, a combination of in-person and virtual. So you guys are, like you said, you're evolving every day.
We are, and our staff was ready for it, and why? Because the passion is to educate and share the beauty of Virginia.
Talking to Rebecca Kleinhample, final few moments right here on Sports Scene. I want to thank her for her time, her talent, and her treasure. And, of course, the Virginia Living Museum we mentioned, on the grounds and properties, kind of like an escape from everyday life, too. People are looking for escapes. They're looking for something to do. I mean, there's not a whole lot of movie theaters going on. Restaurants are limited capacity. So this is a nice escape for young and old.
Couldn't agree more. It's a little bit of a respite, if I could use that word, from the challenges we are all facing. Being so close to each other, families so close now, and then not having, our social packs and the relief. So, yes, come on out to the museum and just enjoy the little bit of an escape because it's a great outdoor opportunity and because you learn together here with all levels of learners and all ages.
Like you said, you grew up in Pennsylvania. You know how big the aquarium is in Baltimore. But for the people who have never been there, for parents that have kids or just senior citizens, what kind of live animals can they actually see, or reptiles? Oh,
absolutely. So the main museum that you enter first is basically an aquatic and reptilian facility. So you'll see all the wonderful sturgeons and trout and interesting gar. You'll see venomous snakes. You'll see newts and all kinds of native reptiles. And then you walk out to the boardwalk, and this is basically a zoo or wildlife center-like setup where you walk on a boardwalk through the woods on an elevated boardwalk, and you get to experience red fox and coyote and white-tailed deer, bobcat, bald eagle, vultures. We have an aviary with local snowy egrets and ducks and pelicans, raccoon, and, of course, the ever-popular river otter, who are just fun, and you can watch from on top of the exhibit or at water level and just watch them and their fun antics.
Talk about your hours daily.
Yeah, absolutely, 9 to 5 every day. We don't take a day off. We're open 9 to 5. Obviously, the best way to enjoy the museum is with a membership because you can keep coming back every day if you like, all year long for a 12-month period.
And, of course, you got birthday parties, weddings, and reunions possibilities.
Yeah, now we're of course, 10 is the maximum for an event, but you can have a really fun birthday party with 10 folks here, and you can experience the live animal interaction in that birthday party, or you could take a garden tour, or you could talk about environmental green living. I mean, there's something for everybody here.
Right off J. Clyde Morris. Well, Rebecca, thank you. Leave us with a parting shot here. Of course, you're on social media. You got a great website, thevlm.org, and thank you, Judy, for all her great work as well, and your wonderful staff. Really, it's a combination of paid staff and volunteers, right, Rebecca?
We're a team, and that's how the museum originated in 1966. So a great nonprofit works with paid staff as well as volunteers who we train here on site. So it's a great continuing education opportunity. This is a terrific community partnership as well as a terrific experience. And I would say my parting shot is the great outdoors is the place to be right now. And you can couple that with a one-way walk through the museum, and it is really the happiest day that you will spend right now here locally.
Well said. People always leave with a smile on their face.
You got it.
All right, Rebecca, all the best, and hope we can visit again sometime in the future. All the best to you and your family.
Greg, thank you for the opportunity. You too, and come visit us.
I will. My pleasure, Rebecca. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Rebecca Kleinhample right there from the Virginia Living Museum. Sports Scene will continue after these messages.
Sports Scene, Hampton Roads' premier interview show with Greg Bicouvaris, each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11.
And you look at that, 4-4 at home, which is just average, 4-3-1 on the road. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. They were not the same team after they beat the Packers, yet the Packers were a totally different team.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBic and listen weekly as Greg interviews distinguished guests with excellent commentary and insight. Sports Scene, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on the Lighthouse 100.1 FM.
A tradition of excellence for over 50 years is the Aberdeen Barn Steakhouse in Virginia Beach. Start your experience off with she crab soup, an assortment of appetizers such as the fried oyster, Rockefeller, crispy calamari, just to name a few. Aberdeen Barn is the finest premium steaks, prime rib, grilled tomahawk ribeye, seafood, chicken, pasta dishes, and live music in a most pleasing atmosphere. Open daily. Visit them at 5805 Northampton Boulevard in Virginia Beach. Call 464-1580 and log on to aberdeenbarn.net.
What tees you off? Presented by Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com.
All right, What Tees Me Off, presented by GJBTV.com. Always a lot of fun. Colleen, when you're going to a place and you hear people's conversations that just happen to echo, no regards of other people in the room, how about just say hello and walk out and make your conversation?
Yeah, I don't like to intrude on people's conversations for sure.
All right, the price of trash bags. I mean, goodness gracious. How can these dollar stores sell them for $1? I know they're not the best material, but the price of trash bags are not cheap.
And you're throwing them away.
Exactly. Stoplights that linger. I've talked about this for the last several years on Sports Scene on multiple stations. How about everything is just a minute and let's just go from there because it's not consistent.
I know. I don't know whether they have something monitoring it or not.
When someone wants to have a sit down and they ignore all the good things and just want to go over the negative stuff, I mean, that's not cool.
No. Yeah, it drags everybody down.
We mentioned people's conversations. How about just loud people who think they need to scream, especially on TV or radio? Be yourself, because obviously you're not like that all the time.
They want to get attention, or they think that we can't hear.
Yeah, a lot of excess noise for sure. All right, the spelling of the word canceled. I've seen it with 2 L's and 1 L. I believe it's just with 1 L. CANCELED.
Oh, goodness. You stumped me for a second. I thought it was 2, actually.
And how about this is our favorite. There, Their, There, there and there. I mean, a lot of us guys, we get that confused.
Mixed it up, yes. Yeah. Yes.
When Wi-Fi is out for multiple hours, that is almost a major dramatic issue.
We cannot have problems, especially here at the radio station with Wi-Fi. That's crippling for sure.
This is the worst. When somebody looks at you in the face to face, not over the phone, says, yeah, I'll call you or I'll meet you, and their word means nothing.
Okay, yeah.
That's the worst for an adult. All right, folks, I like little dogs like Shih Tzus and Yorkies and whatever, but there is a leash law. Don't just roam vicious dogs on baseball fields when there's kids, adults, and senior citizens trying to get a walk around the park. Vicious dogs are vicious dogs. They're mindful of their owners, but not of others.
They can be a little scary for little kids, for sure.
Absolutely. Sports Scene will continue after these messages.
Sports Scene, Hampton Roads' premier interview show with Greg Bicouvaris, each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11.
And you look at that, 4-4 at home, which is just average, 4-3-1 on the road. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. They were not the same team after they beat the Packers, yet the Packers were a totally different team.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBic and listen weekly as Greg interviews distinguished guests with excellent commentary and insight. Sports Scene, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on the Lighthouse 100.1 FM.
A tradition of excellence for over 50 years is the Aberdeen Barn Steakhouse in Virginia Beach. Start your experience off with she crab soup, an assortment of appetizers such as the fried oyster, Rockefeller, crispy calamari, just to name a few. Aberdeen Barn has the finest premium steaks, prime rib, grilled tomahawk ribeye, seafood, chicken, pasta dishes, and live music in a most pleasing atmosphere. Open daily. Visit them at 5805 Northampton Boulevard in Virginia Beach. Call 464-1580 and log on to aberdeenbarn.net.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for diabetic supplies, you may qualify to receive your diabetic testing supplies now with little or no out-of-pocket cost, regardless of your age. All you need is Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no-obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-520-8629. 800-520-8629. 800-520-8629. Call right now. 800-520-8629.
Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to gjbtv.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.
And welcome back to Sports Scene. Always a pleasure to talk to George McClain from the Marksman and Newport News. George, happy February.
Same to you, Greg. Hope everything is going well and you're healthy.
Very good, very good. I mean, every day it's something different, George. You know, just when you think, you got it from a business standpoint, something changes. But I guess the bottom line is we still need to wear masks and still need to be proactive.
Well, yeah, nothing has changed, industry-wide as far as our industry goes, in that regard. But, we're going to have to stay on top of this, looks like, for quite some time in the future.
When people come into the store now, February, March, George, what are their biggest needs? Is it ammunition? Is it a lesson? Is it a refresher? Is it buying new equipment? What are you saying has been the trend?
Well, lately, pretty much guns and ammo because they're just extremely hard to get. Ammo supply... it's very helter-skelter. It will be, have a supply of 9mm, for a couple weeks, and then we're out of 9, and we may get, a little bit of 45 in. So things are getting scarce. Even the handguns, being able to order a specific gun, all of our distributors have told us everything is what they call on allocation. And it's basically, they give us a call every day and let us know what they have, and we can, pick and choose from that. But, putting an order in, for someone, they may be waiting months on a particular model Springfield, for example. And if every day they call us and there's just none of that model Springfield, but they have maybe a few other, we get a couple of different Glocks, maybe a SIG here and there. I've never seen it like this, and hopefully once it's over with, we'll never see it like this again. But it's a challenge right now.
It's a challenge to everybody too, the staff and the people that come in, the patrons, everybody. It's really just an overall challenge. You have to be really cognizant of what's going on.
Yes. Yep, you really do. And I guess that's the biggest thing. It's frustrating for the customers, and we can tell. And it's frustrating for us as well. So as far as what, their needs are, and that's getting, ammo is the big, thing today. You mentioned, instruction, that type of thing. We're still, restricted on, just how much, what we can do, in regards to that, because we still need to maintain that 6 foot social distancing deal. And when you get into instructing, you typically need to get a little bit closer to that. And a lot of times, it gets, physical, where you're touching the individual's hands, getting a grip, the way it's supposed to be, and helping them out in that regard. So we've lost a lot of that business. Our range is still at 50%, so we've lost that business. So we can only have like 4 people on the range at one time. So it's they do not make it easy for us.
Right, because every customer's got different needs. You don't know their health when they walk in the door. The people that are already in there doing business with some of your employees might not know, and you still have to be a part and all that stuff, because you really want to be, you don't want to have any anxiety when you want to go buy some type of firearm or ammunition. You want to be at peace, and you want to be able to ask the right questions as well.
Well, that's exactly right. And with all the safeguards that we do, as far as the cleaning and then disinfecting and all that, so we do everything that we reasonably can to make sure that we have a COVID-free workplace. But because we have we're open to the general public, there's just no guarantee that it's going to be 100%. Safe as far as that goes, because you never know what that person coming in behind you. You just clean and disinfected everything what that person's bringing in. So it's important that everyone uses the sanitation gel on their hands, and just to stay as clean as they can.
Talk about your updated hours, George, and talk about I know you try to maintain some type of consistency the best you can with Military Mondays and First Responder Fridays.
Well, we still honor those days on Mondays and Fridays for military folks and first responders. But our right now our standard hours are going to be open to the public from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. And we're doing that Monday through Saturday. We have reinstituted the concealed permit classes, and we typically will do those on a Sunday, but that's the only thing that we're doing on a Sunday. Those classes we have limited number that we allow inside for in person, and then the rest of it is distance learning, where you have to have two-way visual communications.
Right, because no matter what class it is, you always have to learn something. I mean, everything is constantly changing. You might have the same firearm, for a while, but, you might want to learn something as a refresher course. And I was going to ask you that too, George. What is the shelf life for most of these firearms that people are buying in 2021?
Well, the shelf life for the firearms themselves is forever. I mean, those firearms last several, many generations. The bigger thing is, shelf life of ammunition. And this modern ammunition, it will outlive us. So no one, I don't think, has to be typically worried about that. We do tell folks, I would tell them, for self-defense ammo, you replace it, once a year or 2 years, just because it's self-defense stuff. But typically, we're not going to have to worry about, that shelf life, within our lifetime.
Absolutely. Talking to George McClain from the Marksman. And George, every time you watch the news, there's always something, and that sometimes triggers as far as people going to want to buy something at a local gun shop, not just in Newport News or in Virginia, but all over the country. So sometimes cultural fairs and world events do trigger sales.
Well, they do, and that because of that's contributed to the ammo shortage. And I'm sure everyone thinks, well, they're just not making enough ammo. But I know Federal, who's probably the largest ammo manufacturer in the country, they're doing everything that they can do. But here's what happens when you have a catalyst that drives people into buying firearms. And if I forget the number, but for the last year, 18 months over the previous year to 18 months, we saw like a 18% increase in gun ownership. Well, when you throw a couple of boxes of ammo into those extra, million or 2 million or 3 million firearms, new ones that the market has not had, in addition to all the ones that's already currently out there and the ammo that they're buying up, you can see very quickly how you can run into an ammo shortage. And it's just that right now demand is just overwhelming supply, and they're doing everything they can to try to keep up. And a lot of them are working on reduced crews because of the COVID restrictions, and that's not helping the situation either.
Yeah, and you talk about your staff. They have to know that. The customers have to know that, and people have to know that. Just have to be patient. But pretty much, even the restrictions, not to mention in store, but also ordering online or just ordering in person, it's difficult for somebody themselves to order it because usually people like yourselves at the retail level have a little bit more access than customers, correct?
Well, to a point. Our online sales, you could order if you find something that's in stock, and it because we have it out there, so it comes in to us. People think, or a lot of the politicians will say, well, you can buy firearms online. Well, but they don't tell the whole story. You can buy it online, but you got to, it gets shipped into a federal firearms licensed dealer, which I am. The Parchman is. And you have to pick up the firearm there and do the paperwork there. So, but to get back into the ordering deal, you go and if if you see one, but right now, everything is showing out of stock, just simply because it's on allocation and they don't have the excess inventory. So we've got 5 different distributors, and we would warehouse upwards of probably $50 million of inventory that would normally be available. That right now, very little that's available.
Very good, very good. And you talk about what people have to keep an eye on the lookout, too. We mentioned what's available, what's not available, because every state's different. I mean, it might be better in Texas than it is, let's say, in North Carolina. But right now, we have to deal with the cards we're dealt with, and that's patience,
That's true, yeah. Well, the difference, in the states would be, maybe their local laws on the COVID thing as far as, distribution from firearms dealers and ammo, that's pretty much going to be the same state to state to state, because we all of us, I mean, there's only, a handful of major distributors, in the country that supply all of the, firearms dealers. So we're all trying to buy from the same guys. It's just a difference of the size of the business and how deep your pockets are. So when you do make a purchase, how much are you buying, and how long is that going to last? Whatever supply that particular business needs for the next 30 to 90 days.
Right. And what advice would you have for the first time buyer that wants to buy a firearm, George, that's never been to your store before, because they're having to deal with COVID, they're having to deal with more restrictions, they're having to deal with waiting, and ordering online. It's not just the same as it was a couple of years ago.
No, I mean, now it's patience is the key, and still you have to get that education, to get over that. Well, what's the first step? The first step would be to pick up the telephone and give us a call, and be more than happy to walk you through what our requirements are based on the governor's orders for Virginia, and that's where we would start. We typically will always have some firearms in stock, but it may not be exactly what you want. But at today's market, the way it is, it may be very difficult to get exactly what you want, but you may be able to find something close and settle for that until later on. None of us know how long this stuff's going to last.
Right.
We do not know when inventory levels are going to return to the pre-COVID levels that we were used to seeing prior to that. So it's again, patience, giving everything a chance, knowing that if we could have everything in stock that we wanted, it would be there. We can't get it just simply because it's not available.
Right. You'd love to have the stocks overflowing of firearms and ammunition, but that's not always the case, especially since March of 2020, as we're now a year into this COVID stuff. Still, we don't know all the answers. People are still not getting vaccines. Some have not even gotten tested for it, so a lot of it's just question marks. But, George, tell us all the social media. You're on Facebook. You have a website as well.
Yeah, we have the website that's for the long-term stuff. We don't make daily changes on the website, but anything that needs to kind of get out there quickly, we'll do it on our Facebook page. We also maintain an Instagram account. So those are the two biggies that you can get up-to-date info on.
Right. Very good. And of course, the phone number there is 872-4130, located in Newport News, convenient everywhere off Interstate 64 in several areas in both Peninsula and the South Side. George, all the best. Continue the good work, and thank you for supporting this show and the Marksman as well.
All right, Greg. Well, thank you very much. Stay healthy, and we'll catch you next month.
Very good. George McClain right there from the Marksman. Always a pleasure. Sports Scene will continue after these messages. Recently, in the world of sports, we've lost a lot of great giants, not necessarily related to each other or relevant to each other, but the late Marty Schottenheimer, who coached the Browns, the Chiefs, the Washington football team, and, of course, the Chargers. May his memory be eternal. We had a chance to interview him on The Game when I worked there. Hank Aaron, who is the home run king for the Atlanta Braves. And, of course, Larry King. We saw him on CNN for years, but he also did a show on Mutual Radio. He always said short questions, short answers. It's not about him, it's about the guests. He never learned anything just talking to himself. We interviewed Larry King. What a giant in broadcasting. And the great thing is, a lot of these great interviews are on YouTube. YouTube is great for ACC basketball tournaments in the past with Lefty Drizel or whatever you want to see. YouTube can show you how to make a steak even as well. And the late Pedro Gomez, we just lost him recently. He worked for ESPN, total family man. He was a print and broadcast reporter. May all of their memories be eternal.
Sports Scene, Hampton Roads premier interview show with Greg Bicouvaris, each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11.
And you look at that, 4-4 at home, which is just average, 4-3-1 on the road. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. They were not the same team after they beat the Packers, yet the Packers were a totally different team.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBick and listen weekly as Greg interviews distinguished guests with excellent commentary and insight. Sports Scene, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on the Lighthouse 100.1 FM.
On the next episode of Sports Scene, we'll dive into the NCAA tournament, March Madness, and all the behind the scenes that goes on to making that tournament great. This year, it'll be different. For the men's tournament, everything will be in Indiana. On the next edition of Sports Scene, coming up later in March.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for diabetic supplies, you may qualify to receive your diabetic testing supplies now with little or no out-of-pocket cost, regardless of your age. All you need is Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no-obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-520-8629. 800-520-8629. 800-520-8629. Call right now. 800-520-8629.
I want to thank our guests today, Jeff Jones, head men's basketball coach at Old Dominion, Rebecca Kleinhample, and George McClain. I want to thank our producer, Colleen, @GregBick on Twitter, @GregBick on YouTube. For Colleen, I'm Greg Bicouvaris. We'll talk to you soon.